Hey, welcome to the Upland Nation podcast. I'm Scott Linden, your host, sort of your guide as we wander the fields and forests, looking for adventure in the uplands, behind a good-looking dog or two, or maybe a real ugly dog like mine. Doesn't matter. They're all great, aren't they? Excellent show in store for you. Looking forward to getting caught up with my good friend Phil Wechsler down in southern Arizona. Yeah, we'll talk all things Quail, and who knows beyond that. Former guide, now a first responder, doing a great job at both. And maybe he can help me with my upcoming trip that way. We'll also talk about all the things that you and I regret. Yeah, thanks so much if you helped out with that Pointing Dog Journal article. It turned out pretty good, in large part thanks to you. I'll share some of your thoughts on that and a few of my own. We'll have the Upland Nation Puzzler and a prize. A hunting vest might be yours real soon. And it's all made possible by Roughland Performance Kennels, Happy Jack Dog Care Products, Pointer Shotguns, Dr. Tim's Natural Performance Dog Food, and of course, the FindBirdHuntingSpots.com website. Well, I got rained out of that last chukar trip, and if you know anything about chukar country, you know it was a smart move, or what's the opposite of a move? Not move? Anyway, once you get up into those hills and it starts raining, it's ugly, really ugly. So I just want to make sure that once I get up there, I can get back down again without going off the edge into a precipice of some sort or another. So anyway, called that off. Instead, I made up for lost time at the shooting range, shot both Saturday and Sunday. Wonderful course. Again, if you got a course run by volunteers, go out and thank them, if nothing else, for their hard work. The Redmond Rod and Gun Club's Twisted Tree Sporting Clays course is incredible, all built by volunteers, run by volunteers. Good job, everybody. And thank you. I'm still working on that instinctive style of shooting, but I'm getting closer and closer. The good news is my percentage is going up every time I show up there. The bad news is the reason I went twice this weekend is because my shooting on that last chukar trip was so bad. All right. Well, maybe you're thinking about the same thing. How about this? What are you thinking about when it comes to the drive? How long are you driving? You know, I asked that in a recent Upland Nation Insights newsletter, and I found it fascinating how far you're willing to go, and so I thought I'd share that with you here. I asked, how far do you usually drive each way to your hunting spots? 26% of you said less than an hour. Lucky guys. 36% said a couple hours max. 30% said more than 2 hours. I didn't want to go on beyond that because I'm the only guy who will drive 6 hours. And then 8% of you said, drive? Heck, I live there. Well, okay. Feel free to send me your latitude and longitude and open up your calendar. I'd love to talk with you about a trip. Okay. All right. We are about ready to talk to Phil. First, a couple reminders. First, this part of the Upland Nation podcast is brought to you by Sage and Breaker Gun Care Products, crafted at the highest caliber. Go to the website, sageandbreaker.com. Sign up for the mailing list. You'll get notice of the rare sales that Fred Bohm puts on, and also first notice of all the new products as they come down the pipeline. And then legacysports.com is where you learn more about all the pointer shotguns. I'm working on them right now. I'm impressed by all sorts of things, from the fit and finish to the value. A full line of over and under and semi-automatics. Whether you're upgrading from one to the next, or you're looking for a first gun for a kid or for a new hunter, these are also available in several colors. The Cerakoting protects from corrosion and also makes you look cool in the field. Learn more at legacysports.com. Well, last time I talked with him, he was a pro guide down in southern Arizona. He's still in southern Arizona, serving us in other ways these days, but still a very knowledgeable and crazy bird hunter. Phil Wechsler, welcome to the Upland Nation podcast.
Hey, Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Not too bad. I can't complain.
I bet you can't. Have you been hunting much this season so far?
So far, there has not been a whole lot of hunting going on here in Arizona for me. We've had a few people go out and harvest a couple really young desert birds, so not too opposed to wait until they get fully feathered and maybe the temperatures drop just a little bit. But a few people have been going out there and doing all right.
You know, it's funny. I'll make a mental note, and I'll promise everybody else. You know, you're the second Arizona hunter I've talked to in the last few weeks, and yeah, your season is, basically, when everybody else has given up for the year because the weather's so crappy. And I'll warn you in advance. I think I told you before, I'm headed not quite all the way to your country, but down to southwestern Arizona during the crappy weather up here. So looking forward to that. Why don't you give me a feel for the country you love the most? Put us on the map somewhere, and then let's talk about that place.
Well, you kind of hit the nail on the head. When the weather turns bad for a lot of guys, that's really my favorite time to hunt quail. So down here in southern Arizona, we have three species of quail, and my favorite being the Mearns quail, which I'm sure everyone has heard so much about.
So what is it about Mearns quail that trips your trigger?
For me, it's less about the quail and more about how the quail work with the dogs. They hold really tight for the dogs, and they make for some really flushes a lot of times right under your feet, maybe even walk over them. They're flushing behind you or directly off the dog's nose. So it's a really good bird to chase if you have some steady dogs and enjoy watching them work.
Now, you're a pro guide, so maybe you've given this more thought than most of us. Is there some reason they're so willing to be cooperative with us and our dogs?
I want to say I'm no longer considering a pro guide. And we could talk about that a little bit later too if you wanted to. But for me, I had to step away a little bit. Because it was taking away from what I enjoyed most about the sport, which is the dog work, and spending time with the dogs. When you add money to that equation, it can get a little dicey sometimes. So it's been nice. It's been nice to really, last year was the first season I really got to take it back for myself, and I had probably one of my favorite, most fun seasons yet.
Oh, that's fantastic. I always joke about it. Anybody who owns a fly rod thinks they want to be a fishing guide until they try it once. And then they realize, you don't get to do near as much actual hunting when you're a guide, do you?
It's true. And truthfully, a lot of times the younger dogs suffer for it because you can only put down your A game, your A string for someone who's paying money to hunt with you. And so, the up and comers and the young dogs, they just don't get the attention and the experience in the field that they deserve when you have to bench them in order to produce for clients. So it's the most fun, I think, developing young dogs on wild birds. When you see that start to click, it's the best feeling in the world for me.
Well, tell me a little bit about that, Phil, because that is, of course, we live for the same thing, you and me, and most of the folks who are in on our conversation today, they are all about the dogs. What has been the difference since you've gotten away from the guiding side? What do you do with a young dog to bring them along that you couldn't do before?
Well, picture this, you have some people that are paying for your time and your experience and your knowledge, and you're out there hunting, and you have a couple good broke dogs down, and if they stab some quail, and you guys walk in, and the lab will come in and flush the quail up, and bang bang, two birds drop the covey, and then we move on. That's the ideal scenario. But then if you throw a young dog into the mix, maybe the dog on point, you're starting to get in position, and that young dog just goes right through the covey and bumps them up, and the birds fly away, and the hunters don't get a shot. For me, I couldn't think of a better scenario for a young dog to just get experience and get bird contacts and let them chase those birds. But in a guiding situation, that's not what they're paying for, and that's the last thing you want. So, you really have to bench those younger dogs and try to fit them in when you have a full guiding schedule. Without the guiding schedule, I really treat every day in the field as a training day. I don't go for limits or gosh, I do love to shoot birds, don't get me wrong, but it's more about getting the dogs into birds and making progress with them than it is filling a bag and wrapping quail and bacon and eating them. For me, it's more about just watching the dogs develop.
Yeah, I love that. And, it's funny. We've, over the years on the TV show in particular, once in a while, in fact, I'm thinking of one in particular, but we'll say to the guide or we'll say to the lodge operator, how about that dog? Well, he just got I was walking through the kennel one night, just got there for the shoot the next day. And I said, what happened to that dog? It's got a cast on his leg. Oh, broke this or did that, whatever. What about that one? Well, he's the replacement. He showed up today. And I said, you hunted with him? No. Hey, let's bring him out tomorrow. Most paying clients probably wouldn't be happy in that situation. But Duke, man, he delivered. You saw that. If you watched Wing Shooting USA, you saw Duke turn into a bird dog in one day. Now, he started from a great breeder and a great kennel and all that. But we can take those chances. But you're right. A client's not going to be willing to do that, are they?
No, but and that's not, it wouldn't be fair to do to them either. I don't want to pose it as the client's fault. It's it's a mutual transaction and an agreement, and they're paying you to put down your most experienced dogs and take them to the spots you think are going to produce birds so they can have that experience. So,
that's got to be another aspect of this thing. And I'm not looking for secrets or anything, but I never get to talk with a guide about things like this. But finding the good spots, that's just as important because, again, you got to put birds in the air for these guys. How hard do you have to work at that? And is that was that like a year-round process?
No, I wouldn't say it was a year-round process as far as scouting for birds. It is a year-round process just owning, X amount of dogs in a dog kennel.
Yeah.
But the way that I'm speaking specifically about Mearns because that is, the main draw down here, I believe.
Yeah.
The way that I like to hunt them is I really don't like to the same spot at once.
Yeah.
To hit the same covey more than once, and when it happens and you go out, you start to recognize the cover, and you go off of maybe your past experiences from the year before. Hey, I remember this area held birds. You go in there, you find some birds, great. Well, now the next time I go out, I'm going to hit, two hills over, and the next time I go out, I'll go into the next hill, and you just kind of work off of an area. When I find birds, I just work off of an area instead of going back to the same spot. Now everybody has their quote unquote go-to where year after year they know they're going to find birds in there, but it's not an isolated area. Arizona's terrain it could be a little bit overwhelming if you came down here for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And because it all is Mearns country, so you really have some difficulty figuring out where should I start specifically, and the only way to do that is a lot of miles and dogs with a good nose.
You're listening to the Upland Nation podcast. I'm Scott Linden. I'm learning a lot already, and we got lots more to talk about with Phil Wechsler. Phil, let's talk about that terrain a little bit. I've done a little bit of homework on that. I've talked to a lot of folks who've been there and done that, but why don't you just paint a picture for us of the kind of country you're hunting in?
It's I don't want to sell it short. It's beautiful. I love it down here. But it's not the easiest terrain in the world. It's rocky, a lot of loose rocks. There's grass, there's cactus, there's rattlesnakes year round. There's javelinas that'll injure your dog or kill your dog. We're right on the border of the U.S. and Mexico. I've ran into traffickers and things like that's it's the whole environment. That's pretty wild. It still is very much, I believe, the Wild West out here.
Are we talking serious climbing? What kind of habitat? What kind of plant life is there out there? What are these birds eating?
Sure, that you can get as I always say, you can get deep as you want to, away from the chucker hunters out there. I believe they do a lot more climbing, but it's you can go up some pretty steep hills with really loose rock, and the terrain that these birds like, or sorry, the food that they're eating, they mainly get the Mearns get their food from digging.
Uh-huh.
So they dig these acorns and shoots and roots, and you can look and find their diggings on the ground. Typically, if you find a fresh Mearns dig where the covey has been scratching at the dirt, the covey's probably sitting somewhere hiding looking at you. So you're close. But it doesn't always mean, if you find a fresh dig, it doesn't always mean you're going to find the covey.
I had a revelation. Thanks, Tom, for taking me up into the juniper trees last weekend, where we found chuckers, by the way. But when you're chasing Mearns, you got trees all over getting in the way, don't you?
Yeah, and they're not super tall trees. You can find Mearns in some pretty weird, strange environment, but these short oak scrub, they get, when they take off, they get under them. So they like to put trees between you and them, as quick as possible. I've heard a lot of hunters come out and compare it to the style of quick snap shooting, like rough grouse in the Northwoods. Yeah. Obviously the cover is not as thick, but sometimes your shot presentations, you just have a very small window before they're gone.
Is there lots of cover on the ground? If we're walking around, are we beating through brush, or are we walking on bare dirt most of the time? What does it look like?
They like grassy habitat, so you might be walking through it. Gosh, it could be grazed down, to nothing, and you find a pocket of Mearns on the edge of a hillside, or it could be grass up to your knees or higher, and they could be hiding in there. But mainly it's like an oak grassland type setting would be like the picture perfect Mearns cover. But last year, gosh, I was hunting some desert birds last year, and I was just walking along with the dog, and we went on point, and I didn't have my limit, but I was just like, I've shot enough Gambels and scale quail today, so I just kind of flushed it and didn't plan on shooting, and watched the scale quail get up, and then the dog wasn't moving, so I kept going, and all of a sudden a couple Mearns got up in an area where I would have never expected to find them. So they can really be anywhere. They were in that terrain was steep. We were up really high, and it was bare dirt and rocks. Really, there was no grass or oaks around.
Go figure. Yeah. And I remember the first time this happened. It's happened 2 or 3 more times since. I'll be hunting valley quail in various spots, whether it's right along a creek or in a really tall cattails thicket or something like that. And what gets up with the valley quail covey? One mountain quail.
That's a bucket list bird for me right there. Mountain quail is on my list.
Come out here. I got 2 places where there's a 50-50 chance we might actually find one. That's as far as I'm going to go. I'm not going to tell anybody else about that. But do you? I mean, I'm intrigued that they would be. Do you think they were all hanging together? The Mearns and the Gambels.
I don't know. A lot of people don't believe me when I tell this story, but when those Mearns got up, I had sat there and watched Gambels and Scalies flush. I had all 3 species in the air at the same time, and believe it or not, I was there and it happened to me, and it was pretty incredible. It was pretty exciting. I do have some witnesses to this story if you need any proof, but it's the first and only time I've ever seen that. I'm sure other people have had that experience before, but it was a pretty special day for me. And it was with two young dogs who had really been making great progress, and so that kind of made it even more more of a special day.
Don't you love that? You can put a check mark on the calendar right there, and you know that Rover and Fido did.
Mm-hmm.
They moved up a notch on the board, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a day for the books for sure.
I got it. So I called the biologist for the area when I shot that mountain quail out of the valley quail covey, and it was on the phone, but there is a sound when somebody rolls their eyes, because I heard it. Oh, we're just getting warmed up around here. It's the Upland Nation podcast. That's Phil Wechsler. We're talking, I'm going to call them desert quail because it's hotter down there and I can't wait to be there. I'm Scott Linden. Phil, you get a moment to unlace your boots and relax while I pay the bills around here. So stand by. And the rest of you, if you would please, go to happyjackinc.com. That's where you learn all about the products that I'm using every time I go out. I'm starting a hunt with pad coat on Flick's feet. I'm ending the hunt with Seal and Heel on all the holes and scrapes and scratches that he got that day. And there's a few other things in between that I'm using. Save yourself a trip to the vet every once in a while. You don't really need to go for every little thing. If you're preventing or you're dealing with stuff in the field, happyjackinc.com is a place to do it. Pardon me, because I want to be in my best voice for roughlandkennels.com. Whether you're looking for water storage and dispensing of various types, or a new performance kennel for your dog, the Roughland folks, they pioneered that whole roto-molded one-piece kennel design. Just to remind you, Roughland is RUFFLAND kennels.com. That's where you learn about all of their great products. A bunch of accessories, as well as the performance crates and all the things that go in and on it. Many of their products have 5 out of 5-star reviews all over the place. Learn more at roughlandkennels.com. Yeah, we're talking southern Arizona, some exotic quail species with former guide and friend of the show, Phil Wechsler, here at the Upland Nation. Y'all stick around. We got more to talk about as we get down the road. We've got the Upland Nation Puzzler and a prize. Yeah, you could win one of those. Let's see, what are we calling that thing? The Chief Upland World's First Customizable Front-Loading Technical Upland Vest is the prize this month. And then some of your observations on regrets, and whether you have a few like Frank Sinatra or you have a long list like I do. We're talking about those as well. But first, Phil, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Scott.
I know it's your passion, and I know we've talked in the past, but tell me about your string. How are the dogs getting along, and what have you got in your string these days?
So I went through a big kind of attrition period. I had to really downsize the amount of dogs that I had when I left guiding, just because I wouldn't, at a certain point, it's not fair if you're not running these dogs and letting them do what they love. So I'm now currently down to, let me think, six bird dogs, pointers, short hairs, and a lab. And I think 6 is a really good number for me. My string has some of the old proven veterans, and then it has two up and comers that really excelled last year that I'm really excited to get into Mearns this year with.
Love it. Hold on just a moment. Honey, Phil says 6 dogs is the right number. She's not quite in accordance with that yet, but
it's dog math. 2 is easier than 1. 2 is pretty close to 3. When you're at 3, you might as well get 4, and it just spirals from there. So.
Yeah, that's like the Mexican toast that I like the most. I'll say it in English for most people. You probably understand this one, Phil. 1 beer is really a half beer. 2 beers is 1 beer. 3 beers is 2 beers, and 4 beers is no beers.
I never heard that one.
Oh, it's good. Especially good in Spanish, but that's another. that's something we'll talk about over a half a beer. So let's go through the breeds again, and then I want to talk about how you're using them these days. How about those young dogs? Which ones are they?
I have a young pointer and a young short hair. The short hair I bred. The pointer I got as a starter dog from Ryan Mulcahy. Phenomenal little pointer. She's quickly becoming one of my favorites. Ugly as sin. I call her name's Reba. I call her the Quail Goblin. I always say I should put her down. She's so ugly, but gosh, she's good at finding birds. So
well, you're not going to get any complaints from this ugly dog owner. Do you say little? What's a little pointer to you guys?
Gosh, she's tiny. She's got to be 37, 38 pounds.
Oh my God.
She's small. She's small, but she gets it done. So
yeah.
I prefer smaller dogs. I have a couple bigger dogs, and they're great too. But smaller dogs are easy to pick up.
Yeah.
There's less poop.
Yeah.
There's less to feed. So,
and have you found that a lighter dog is easier on their pads?
I would say no.
Okay.
I really feel like the way that a dog holds up is really based on genetics.
Yeah.
Genetics and breeding and proper conditioning.
Okay, well there you have it. I've never had the pleasure of owning a 39-pound wire hair, and I probably never will. But I would kill if somebody would please start breeding them down a bit. Okay, so you got a Labrador in that mix as well. What are you doing with the Lab?
So I bought her as a flushing dog,
yeah.
And from a guy here in Arizona who hunts strictly quail, and I wanted a Lab that was going to hold up well in the desert and be able to hunt all day like the pointing dogs. And so I always say, everyone's on this cocker craze right now. A bunch of my friends have them. They're great little dogs, but I always say, Labs, they're the hunting man's cocker. So they can really get the job done. So Jackie, my Lab, she's a phenomenal bird finder. She's got a great nose. No thanks to me. I can't take much credit for it. She woes up when the other dogs go on point, and I say her name and release her, and she goes and flushes the birds up for me. That way I don't, get my head blown off when someone's trying to shoot a bird. And I actually shoot a lot of ducks down here.
Oh.
In Arizona. So she's become quite the little duck dog too.
I love it. I had a good buddy who became a very good buddy. We worked together for 2 summers. He went to school in Flagstaff. And the first 2 years, he survived on ducks. And people say, Arizona? Ducks? What? Where are you going for those?
That's secret information.
Okay,
you won't
sorry,
find an Arizona duck hunter. You won't find an Arizona duck hunter giving out any more information than
that. So far, we have all females in your string. Am I right on that?
No, I have 2 males.
Okay.
2 males and 4 females.
Okay.
A male short hair and a male pointer.
And so it's really not about gender for you. It's about something else, isn't it?
I like dogs that find birds and dogs that hunt.
Yeah.
For me, it's not about size. It's not about size or color or it's just, does the dog hunt? Does the dog find birds? Does the dog perform?
Yeah.
It's hard to put into words. I attribute a lot of my knowledge. I'm not a professional dog trainer by any means. Many people will tell you that. But one of my mentors, Guy Malacone, who really taught me everything that I know. He's, about bird dogs, and he taught me to just kind of keep that open mind and open attitude. And, what are we really looking for in a bird dog? Do we want to breed a dog because it's got this and that behind it, or this, or do we want to breed, dogs that hold up well, throughout the years, hunting on rough terrain? Do we want dogs that are genetically sound, that don't have, major health issues or get weird cancers at 4, 5, 6 years old? Dogs that have good noses, that find birds, dogs that behave well, when they're on birds.
That's easy to say, but harder to do. And in fact, I'm writing a story for who am I writing that for? Oh, for Gun Dog Magazine on picking a dog.
Yeah.
And I think I got a pretty good list going, but you do it, and sometimes you do it just on the phone, but it's not just a phone call. What else do you do to ensure that your dogs meet the criteria you just described?
It's tough. Now that from the string that I had when I was guiding to the string that I have now, I think it's safe to say that I've narrowed it down to what I'm looking for. That doesn't mean that the dogs that I have that have moved on to other homes aren't good bird dogs. I've gotten great feedback on all of them, but I think just everybody's different. So you really just want a dog that's going to fit your needs and work for you. Are you into the field trials? Would you like to do that? Are you the weekend warrior who needs a dog that's able to be a house dog 90% of the time? In my opinion, a good bird dog is balanced and can do anything you want it to. You want it to run field trials or hunt birds or be a house dog. A good dog should be able to do all of that. And again, I'm not a pro. Please, I'm sure there's a million people yelling at me, and that's fine. I won't even respond to messages, but that's just how I feel about it.
Do you get many puppies, or are you buying started dogs most of the time?
Out of necessity, I was buying started dogs while I was guiding.
Sure.
I have bought many started and or quote unquote finished dogs.
Yeah.
And I only have two that I kept that were as advertised or better than advertised. So it's, if you do your research when you're going for a started dog or a finished dog, because everyone's definition is different. I got a great dog who I still have from Austin Turley, and that little pointer Reba that I got from Ryan Mulcahy. I've gotten some phenomenal dogs from Guy Mollicone. And I think the most important thing you could do is build a network of people that you trust that are doing the deal. And you really can't go wrong if you get your dogs from that network. It's more than just this guy's got X amount of followers on Instagram and takes pretty pictures.
It's so true and absolutely right. It's all about that networking. I tell everybody, start a year before you want a dog, and maybe longer if you need to. Tell me about your puppies, though, when you're bringing them up. What is one thing that you do with a puppy that maybe we haven't thought about doing, but we really ought to do, or we ought to do more of?
I think a big one is just exposure. Just let the dog be a dog, and after it gets its shots, just take it out and expose it to different things. Let it be a bold pup. Don't over coddle it, and just let it learn to think. Yeah. Let it learn to problem solve, on its own. Let it figure stuff out. If it gets stuck somewhere and starts whimpering, you don't have to rush over and help it. It's not, it's not an immediate danger. Let it think it through. Let it learn to problem solve.
No, I love that idea. I've got the Flick is in the room when I'm having a workout, and and he always wants my attention. So I bought these, they call them treat balls. You put some food in them and you close them up, and the dog works really hard at getting all the food out and I've watched him master various strategies about how to get that food out more efficiently. But once in a while it rolls under a little, ottoman that's a little hard for him to get under, but I'm sitting there, I got nothing else to do. I'm on the elliptical watching him just solve that problem. I'm thinking, man, I wish I'd done more of that when he was 4 months old instead of 4 years old. They really do learn by solving problems themselves, don't they?
I think they do. I mean, they have a brain. They use it. They learn a lot from watching us, and a lot from just being able to figure it out themselves. And I think that translates, later on into the field when it comes time to make that nose brain connection between tracking and pinning and, finding, hunting different objectives. And I feel like it definitely has to correlate.
George Hickox, among others, says no birds, no bird dog. And we all, a lot of us believe in a variation on that, whatever it is. When you introduced, birds of various sorts. We got pigeons, we got pigeon wings, we got pen-raised quail, we got wild quail, and then on from there. But what is your regimen in that regard?
whatever Guy Mollicone tells me to do. That guy, he knows what he's doing. No,
Okay. By the way, how do I spell his name? I got to call this guy.
It would be a great conversation. He's a very knowledgeable man.
Yeah.
Has a lot of experience, real world experience. But I like to start him as young as possible. I don't do the wing on the string and the dog's pointing. I'd rather have a dog rip that wing off at 6 weeks old than see it pointing. I mean, I want a dog that's gonna go for it. You'll develop those pointing instincts later on. I want a dog that's gonna go for that bird no matter what.
So do you at some point introduce him to pigeons, or do you use pigeons at all?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. Obviously, what are pigeons? What are we trying to do with that? We're just trying to replicate wild birds.
Yeah.
So wild birds are the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you mentioned, it takes birds to make a bird dog, and sometimes you just can't. Whether it's illegal in your area to chase them in the off season, or you just maybe you live in the city, it's harder to get out, and you got to use pigeons. That's fine. So yeah, we do pigeons and homing pigeons. Just try to lay a strong foundation. But I mean, gosh, if I have a puppy during bird season, I'll just bring that puppy out. I won't fire guns around it unless it's gun broke, but I'll just bring that puppy out, and I'll let a dog, kind of more experienced dog point a covey, and then I'll just walk the puppy into it.
Yeah.
And see what happens. Do you get scared? Do you chase them? Great, whatever. Just get that experience and get that contact and make it a positive experience for them. I remember Gus, the short hair, the first covey he ever saw. We were out running, and we had a dog go on point and walk Gus in, and she was probably 5-6 months old, and this covey of Mearns exploded. I mean, under all four of his legs, like up from his belly, and he started jumping up straight up vertical in the air, like the ground was falling down underneath him. But it was just you chased him after that. I just let him chase him until he got tired and he came back.
Yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of time for steadiness. That's whatever you want to call it, prey drive or anything else. Got to have that before anything else develops. I agree 100%. We could geek out on this stuff. We could go in deeper into the weeds on that. But what I really want to talk about, because I'm going and I really want to get psyched for it. What was maybe the highlight of last season for you? Describe to me your best quail hunt of last season.
We talked a little bit about it when I found those Mearns and shot my slam without moving the truck. That was the best day of quail season.
Wow.
But I want to talk in general. Quail season for me last year was the best year of quail season. It was, I guided a few hunts, not a lot. But I hunted with so many friends.
Yeah.
And for myself, but I just wasn't able to do in years prior because of guiding, full time nearly every day. I hunted, with new friends, with old friends. I had people coming down from New Mexico, California, Kansas, Montana, and just stay at my house.
Yeah.
I have two spare rooms and a camper, and I got extra kennels, and gosh, just people just staying here, just hunting, using it as a base camp. And it was truly, if I gotta say, a highlight of last season, it was just so many good experiences with friends, new and old.
I can echo that. We had a year off from the TV show because of COVID, and in that season, which I'm extending, by the way, to this season because it's fun. It's about the people that you're going with, and like you said, some of them are brand new, others are not. It really is a dimension that we talk a good game about it, but if we're professionals and we do this on TV or we do this as a guide, all of a sudden you just run out of days in the calendar, don't you?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
How does a guy become a good enough friend of yours to be taken to a place that you love to go? Do people earn that right somehow? Are they friends from another world? I'm not being selfish. I don't expect that, but I'm just intrigued with the whole idea of how camaraderie evolves.
It's interesting because I think, it's changed now in recent years,
Yeah.
just with the introduction of, the social media, and I've met a lot of dudes on the internet,
Yeah.
and then they come over and stay the night in my house. It's just that's what it is. That's what it is. I look and see who looks like they're hunting and having fun with their dogs.
Yeah.
And I go, oh man, that looks like fun. That guy might be fun to hunt with. And inevitably you chat and someone says, hey, I want to come down, or maybe they invite me up, and I get to hunt with them in Kansas or something like that, and it just kind of goes from there.
Yeah.
I like to hunt with people who enjoy it for the same reasons that I do.
And it's funny, and it's not the only way, but it is, especially in the last couple of years, it is one tool to use to find people like that, people of like mind. And it's getting more and more common. Of course, it can be abused as well, and we've all seen that. But how have they returned the favor? Where have you gone outside of Arizona to hunt lately?
So I've been in school the past 2 years, so I haven't got to travel a whole bunch. But Tyler Sladen and I went to Kansas, where we stayed at Kelly Aiken's house. She's a very well known breeder and handler of Irish setters, really nice Irish field setters. We hunted prairie chickens out there. Met a guy who we knew from Instagram, Jake Thomas, and he took us out and took us teal hunting, early teal season.
Yeah.
And in return, he's coming down to Arizona this season. We're gonna get him on some Mearns quail, and another guy when I was up in Kansas, Gary Shaw, he let us hunt his land, and he came down and we hunted together in Arizona. He's coming down again. Him and his son have become close friends too. So I have invites. I have invites from a lot of other people that I just unfortunately haven't had the ability to take up the time. I don't know if you know Patrick Pitt, the waterfowler. Him and
No.
his son came down and hunted ducks with a friend of mine. He was coming down here to hunt the Mexican duck, and my friend is a waterfowl guide, and in return we're going to Arkansas next year to do a flooded timber hunt. So
Wow.
there's a lot of options. It's good. There's good networking to be had.
I don't want
So
to sound like a kindergarten teacher, but it's absolutely true. Whether we voice it or not, it's pretty much quid pro quo. And how you do that is, up to you. But there is a transaction involved, isn't there?
there is a transaction. I wouldn't say quid pro quo, because the people who I've had down, to hunt with me, I haven't invited them just because I wanted to
Yeah.
hunt,
Yeah.
on their area. I think, when you like I said, when you find someone who's doing it for the same reasons you are, it's just important to build that network around you and stick together, because
No,
there's
I
there's a lot
agree.
of there's a lot of weird stuff out there that you can get into on in the bird dog world, and you just need people who are doing it like you, that you can hang out with and have a good time with. So
Well, sometimes the quid or the pro or the quo is not a tit for tat. Pardon the pun. I've
hmm
now I mixed a whole bunch of them. It doesn't need to be A for A, B for B, but there's value in the transaction for both parties,
absolutely.
and it could be knowledge, it could be
Yeah.
advice, it could be a puppy, it could be anything. Who knows?
Yeah, and the biggest thing for me is I just don't want to feel like I'm guiding you. That's
Yeah.
that's it. Because I'm out there to hunt, and if I feel like I'm guiding, I had a couple people tell me I had guiding PTSD. They're like, Phil, chill. Like, it's all right if your dog breaks. I know it's fine. I don't care. And I'm like, oh shoot, yeah, I gotta stop treating you like I'm like I'm guiding you.
Yeah,
So
you should be wearing a
my
badge or something.
my buddy will call me, and one of my best hunting buds, and he'll call me up and he'll be like, hey Phil, where are we hunting this weekend? I'm like, I ain't your guide. You tell me.
Well, a friend of mine who used to give me a lot of money for working for his magazine and is no longer there, but I'm still getting the money. He's working on a piece right now on the most interesting tips guides have received. And I don't mean just, giant piles of dollar bills or $100 bills, but other things. And it could be, knowledge. It could be information, anything. Yeah. What jumps to mind in your former career as kind of what you've maybe not received per se. Nobody handed an envelope to you, but what did you learn from somebody, or what did you get from somebody other than money that you're still applying when you hunt?
I had the pleasure of guiding Will Primos
Oh
on
yeah.
multiple occasions. He is a great human being and a great individual. I can't speak highly enough about him. And I think back to a moment we were in South Dakota. We had just pointed a bird, shot the bird. Sorry, we were porcupined. Then we
Yeah.
pointed a bird, then shot the bird, and then was porcupined again. And I'm trying to pull the quills out of the dog, and Will was saying, "Let me help you." And I said, "I really appreciate it, but no, I don't. I don't want you." I knew the dog wouldn't bite anybody, but I'm like, I don't want to risk it. Da da da. And he stopped me. He's like, "No." He's like, "I'm going to help you." And so, I mean, not to sound like a freaking cornball, but I mean, friendship, just friendship, and just a genuine human interaction. You can't put a price tag on something like that.
Yeah, I interviewed him many years ago on Field and Stream Radio and got the same impression. I'm not surprised at all. I really am not.
No.
And that's wonderful to hear. I always say that, a friend is somebody who will help you move, but a real good friend is somebody who will hold your dog when you're pulling porcupine quills.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the kind of man Will Primos is. Absolutely.
Well, I love it. That's great, and probably a good place to end this conversation. I know you have come off a long, long shift. Why don't you tell people what you're doing these days, just so they can feel sorry for you?
Oh no, please don't feel sorry. Everything I'm doing is self-inflicted. Just in speaking in general, I work for the EMS division on a local fire department here, and I'm currently enrolled in the fire academy. So likely by the time this episode airs, I'll be completed with that. So it's not a bad schedule. Currently it's 40 hours on and 5 days off, so it leaves a lot of time for hunting season coming up.
Yeah, when you're not running into burning buildings and saving lives and doing CPR
Well,
on people.
I can't take credit for all that. I don't want to. I look that I'm not saying that, and that please don't get any ideas that that's what I've been doing. I've been in school and just really driving the ambulance, but I appreciate the sentiment for sure.
Well, good luck. I'm going to congratulate you now. I know you'll be passing with flying colors and graduating that academy and moving on to the next level. Phil Wechsler is somewhere down in southern Arizona, former guide and now just one of us, and maybe slightly more avid than some of you, but I feel there's a connection there. Phil, so good to talk with you again. So glad to see you moving on in life in so many positive ways. Don't be a stranger, and fair warning, I'll be in southern Arizona in late January. So if you want to be in Texas or somewhere farther away, here's your chance. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And you have my number, so we can definitely get together this year.
All right. Thanks so much for being a part of the Upland Nation. Take care now.
Thank you, Scott. Bye.
The rest of you, don't go away, because we've got the Upland Nation Puzzler and your chance at that Chief Upland customizable front-loading vest, as well as your thoughts on a subject that I cannot believe got as much response as it did. I can't wait to share the story with you. Maybe I'll get permission to preview it to all of you before it ends up in the magazine. But first, Dr. Tim Hunt is my man in the dog food world, and that's because not only is he a veterinarian, he's a sled dog competitor. He knows a bit about performance, and he is also a scientist who's figuring out what's good and what's not good in that world, and I trust his opinion, and maybe you should learn more about his thinking process as well. Go to drtims.com. Read around in that website for things like where his ingredients come from. The sourcing is critical. What kind of ingredients he uses and why he uses them. For example, the variety of fats and why he balances those in various ways. Yeah, I know my eyes glaze over too at things like chemistry, but this stuff is easily readable and understandable even for a dog guy like me. Free delivery right to your porch. 30% discount on your first order. Just use the code UplandNation at DRTIMS.com. Okay, and I want to welcome our newest sponsor here at the Upland Nation podcast, MidValleyClays.com. Now, you may recognize that outfit from, well, we shot the pilot for Clay Target Shootout there a few years back, an incredible shooting facility, but also a great resource when it comes to shopping for your next shotgun. How do you search for it now? Well, the gun shows, local gun shop, auctions are all good ideas. But if you've got access to the internet, you have access to Mid-Valley Clays and their shooting school. Now, the key here, and you know how tough it's been, whether it's ammo or guns, the key here is Mid-Valley Clays has special relationships with all the major manufacturers, including Browning, and I'm going to talk more about them in just a minute. They can often find those hard-to-find guns that you're looking for. They got a good selection in stock, especially of hunting guns. A good stop would be MidValleyClays.com. You like an autoloader? What are the features that are important to you? Weight, ease of loading and unloading, reliability, stock adjustability? Well, Mid-Valley Clays has a good selection of Browning's new Maxxis 2 line. Might just give you a double take with respect to the feature list and overall functions. That's at MidValleyClays.com. All right, here it comes. Put your thinking caps on, sort of. If you'd like to win that Chief Upland front-loading technical upland vest, here's the question on the Upland Nation Puzzler this week. Now, I'll award that vest at the end of the month for all of the correct answers that are messaged to me on one of the Facebook pages. Wing Shooting USA, Upland Nation Facebook pages, even my personal page. Just go to one of those, send me a message, and I keep all the answers right there. All right. Easy peasy. Name a game bird that's legal to hunt in Kansas. I can't give you extra points if you name one that's a little bit harder to hunt in Kansas, but if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. In fact, we discussed it just briefly in our conversation, Phil and I. Name a game bird legal to hunt in Kansas. So go to your regs, do some research. That's the whole idea. Learn something right there, and I'll look forward to seeing your answers. Just send me a Facebook message. Yeah, so okay. We kind of grew up in the broadest sphere of the Rat Pack, the original Rat Pack. Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis, Joey Bishop, Peter Lawford, all those guys. If you're my age, you know who they are. I've been a Sinatra fan from the very get-go. My mother was a Bobby Soxer. Well, we could go on forever about that, but the point is, Paul Anka and a couple other guys wrote a great, great song that Sinatra made famous many years ago called My Way. And one of the lyrics is, regrets, I have a few. And I thought, man, I got more than a few. And I'm turning that into a story for a magazine. And I thought, maybe you have a few as well. So I asked you on Facebook, and if you responded or if you just pondered it, and that was the goal, thank you. Your answers were touching and heartfelt. There was a bunch of practical stuff, and I'll share one of mine. There was a whole bunch of way deeper stuff, and I appreciate some of you being brutally honest about you and your hunting career and that sort of thing, and I'll share a couple of those. But the rest of you, make note of this stuff. Go back to the Facebook pages and look at some of the other answers. And then eventually I'll be able to share the whole thing when I finish the story. And maybe you'll learn something. You'll learn to avoid something or to do something more. Here's the first one for me. And boy, it's been driven home. Well, yesterday. Save up your bottles and cans and buy a GPS collar and bring it home before the puppy comes home. Learn how to use it, all aspects of it, but mainly use it so that you can keep track of your dog, and enjoy slightly more peace of mind. Yesterday, Flick got a wild hair. It was really cold, so all of a sudden, bird dogs get another burst of energy. I don't know if it's from the air or from the adrenaline, that the lower temperatures, whatever. He got out 7/10 of a mile. Now, I know that's not far for you field trialers, but it's really far for a versatile dog owner. But at least I knew where he was. Maybe you have had that experience, that sinking feeling that comes from that. So that's one of my many regrets. Okay, here's one from Kurt, and I love this. My 14-year-old Draughtar was never tested to the 3rd level. I thought he was just a hunting dog. Since then, I've tested 3 draughts all the way through the 3rd level VGP test, and what a difference. Pass or fail, the bond created is incredible. Kurt, I know the feeling. Been there and done that. Brett shares this one, and anybody with kids can probably relate. My son asked if he could come with me on a hunt, and I said no. I was just thinking of the limited time and the little things that would make more work for me. I wasn't thinking about how much I love spending time with my kids and how much I love watching my dogs work. I regret losing sight of why I hunt and how important it is for me to share that with the people I love. Brett, you and some of the others have brought tears to my eyes when I'm reading your confessions, and that's what they are. I hope everybody has learned something from Brett, Kurt, and hopefully all the other things that I will be sharing with you, much of it from your fellow hunters. That part of the show is brought to you by FindBirdHuntingSpots.com. New material every week to help you find places to hunt, train, and care for your dog. Sure would love to have you there. You can also listen to this podcast and watch all the videos there as well. Thank you all for being such patient listeners today and for responding so often to things like my requests on social media. Glad to share them. I read every post. I read every comment. Thank you to everybody who leaves a rating or review. That's how we grow, and man, oh man, are we growing fast. So please spread the word, and if you're an Apple Podcast subscriber, would you give me 5 stars? Pretty please? Sure appreciate that. I hope you're headed out real soon. If you are, good luck, be safe. Take somebody who's never been before. Be kind to your dog. And maybe I'll see you out there. I'm Scott Linden. Thanks for listening to the Upland Nation podcast. Okay, and I want to welcome our newest sponsor here at the Upland Nation podcast, MidValleyClays.com. Now, you may recognize that outfit from, well, we shot the pilot for Clay Target Shootout there a few years back, an incredible shooting facility, but also a great resource when it comes to shopping for your next shotgun. How do you search for it now? Well, the gun shows, local gun shop, auctions are all good ideas, but if you've got access to the internet, you have access to Mid-Valley Clays and their shooting school. Now, the key here, and you know how tough it's been, whether it's ammo or guns, the key here is Mid-Valley Clays has special relationships with all the major manufacturers, including Browning, and I'm going to talk more about them in just a minute. They can often find those hard-to-find guns that you're looking for. They got a good selection in stock, especially of hunting guns. A good stop would be MidValleyClays.com. You like an autoloader? What are the features that are important to you? Weight, ease of loading and unloading, reliability, stock adjustability? Well, Mid-Valley Clays has a good selection of Browning's new Maxxis 2 line. Might just give you a double take with respect to the feature list and overall functions. That's at MidValleyClays.com.